Hello, I'm Kim Beaton, and today is the first of a 4-part sculpting tutorial. We're going to be making a shelf fungus fairy home, or more like a shelf fungus fairy condominium. We're basing it on those magical shelf fungus that you see attached to old growth forest trees and old forests. In this video, I'll show you how to make the basic tinfoil cores that everything else will be built upon. Let's get started. I'm building a basic core for the shelf fungus. Since this is likely to be bolted to a tree, I need a curved surface. How I get that is a piece of cardboard with just a simple shape glued onto the back. Voila, curved surface that'll hold weight. Then I'm going to build a whole bunch of pieces of tinfoil pre-crumpled, just so all the noise gets on one side of the microphone. Always make sure you're folding the shiny side inward. A couple of nice cigar-shaped ones. I'm about to start making the 2 components for the shelf fungus house. And that is the body of it, and then it's the roof. The tinfoil is going to be floating inside the sculpture. We're going to start with the house shape first, and then the roof will sit on top of it, very much like that. Where I grew up, shelf funguses were gigantic. They were 3 feet across, and they could take 100 years to grow. Now I'm clarifying the shape. That's the process of sculpting itself in tinfoil. As you fluffed it up with a lot of wonderful material, now I'm using the heel of my hand and I'm finding those shapes. This has to curve around, because shelf fungus do. It has to curve that way, but in particular, it has to curve up this way to create a lip for the roof to go on. And I just want to get that nice curve, so I can even rip off small, tiny pieces and fill it in until I get exactly the shape that I want. Something you have to realize is the moment you're putting tinfoil on, you're not making an armature, you're sculpting. This is not, oh, let's struggle through the awful bit in the beginning where we have to make the damned armature. This is, nope, you're sculpting right now, it's happening. And so as I'm ripping off little tiny pieces, I'm already thinking of how that shape should be ultimately. This is also the fun part, especially when you're sculpting human figure. Then it's just beautiful. Another cool technique, when you want a smooth surface, just roll it on the table. When I move it, you can see there's a little bit of shifting. I don't want that. So even afterwards, I'll get the glue gun and I'll drive into anything that's a little bit loose, like tag ends, and just push them down. Because you want that to be strong. And since this is essentially our fake tree, we want it folding across that surface. And tinfoil, well, you can bend it. That's one of the great tricks, is if I were to sculpt a face out of tinfoil, you can warp the face and elongate it while it's still in the tinfoil stage. It's really kind of cool. That fits. This is our core shape. It arches up inside of the roof. It wraps around this way and comes to a point. At this point, I want to put little tiny windows in. I've chosen to do them naturalistically, which is, it doesn't look like there's little tiny windows and window panes. This is as if it grew that way, because, I don't know, magic. That's a nice window. Maybe one here. It's a good thing that I've still left air in the tinfoil because I can still move it. If I had crushed this to oblivion, an elephant could stand on it and I wouldn't have the ability to continue to shape it. Now part of this smashed away, I will rebuild that part. Even tinfoil acts just like clay. That window is too big. We're going to shrink that window. Using little tiny pieces of tinfoil, I can now refine the form and start elevating very specific details that I want. We have a good base core. I have 3 windows, but they're irregularly spaced. They kind of fit in a naturalistic way, as if fairies had started to alter the shape of the mushroom as it grew so that the windows would be in place. Now I'm going to make the roof. As you've seen from the illustrations, shelf fungus, they're very much like a thatched roof. They flow out radially in a pattern. So when we sculpt, we're literally going to be drawing it in 3-dimensional space, and you draw with what I call a 3-dimensional calligraphic line. Keep this light and airy. You're going to be manipulating this a lot in short order, so don't crush the life out of it just yet. We have a cinnamon roll, and that's what we want. And we want that cinnamon roll to be a fairly uniform thickness. Now there is a particular one of these mushrooms that should appear up on screen right now that has this lovely bump, swale, bump. And I like that shaping, and so that's what we're going to do. So shifting this, you might be able to see that. So bump, and then there's a swale or a valley right here, and then an exterior bump. So that's a nice start for the shaping. Does it fit with the house? No. I need to make some more calligraphic lines. Still, I've got to make that a little wider. It's almost wide enough. Shelf fungus are known because they're really big tops and very, very small underneath. I pre-shape as much as possible before I stick it on the piece. That's looking better. Obviously, it's too thick. We solved that. By pounding it. Ah, it's pretty nice. And now I'm arching it a little bit by pounding it on the edge of the table. And it is beginning to look more recognizable as a shelf fungus. That edge needs to be fairly thin. At this point, I'm going to compress that leading edge. The clay that's going over this is going to thicken this up a fair piece. So it's going to thicken it up that much on both sides. So if I start out with something this big, it's going to look like a loaf of bread. And I don't want that. So I'm going to compress some, not all, of the air out of this. In here, you can see how the arch of this shaping is similar to the arching of that. They need to fit. The reason is we're going to put lights inside of this thing. That's a light guard. If it sits and it butts straight on, light will spill through. I don't want that to happen. I want only light coming from the windows. So to avoid that, we make a lip that folds up inside of the roof that sort of keeps the light in there. That's looking close. Ooh, that's gonna look cool. Tinfoil is marvelously fast. And you can build a very strong armature / sculpture. That's what it's looking like. It fits rather nicely. It's got the arched back, and I can lift that off and get that light stop on the inside. Now, shelf fungus are wildly irregular. So I am going to add a bit of visual interest by just crunkling that edge in a funky fashion. Yeah, see, that's a little bit more interesting. Does it still fit? Yep. Still fits. There. I'm happy with that. This is my finished 2 tinfoil cores. Ultimately, that's going to sit on a tree looking like that. Thanks for watching. I hope you've learned a thing or two about how to sculpt with foil. If you're new, please subscribe to our channel and check out some of the other videos that we've been doing. Thank you so much for watching. Going to blend the fibers down around that edge.